yo, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope everyone's having a good day so far. Today, we are back behind my Spotify. And this time around, we're going to be doing something a little different. Something that was suggested to me by a good friend. I thought, you know what, I'd do a video on this because why not? So a friend of mine, you probably wouldn't know her, but I've known her for good time. We met back in 2015, 2016, around there. And we've been friends for a long time. And recently we talked, and she recommended that I give 21 Pilots this whole discography to listen, or all of their albums or whatnot. And I wasn't going to talk about this album unless, you know, it was on my album of the year, but I have been listening to Clancy, which is, I think, my favorite album by them, but because, dude, everything slaps on it. But we'll talk more about it in a second. But what I went ahead and did is I listened to every single 21 Pilots album in order. So I went through the self-titled one, went through Vessel, went through Blurry Face, went through Trench, went through Scale Nicey, and of course, went through Clancy. I went through all of them in order, and I want to say, like their stuff is really good. I think, for me personally, I think once you, and again, we're going to talk about the albums in a second. I think once you get to Blurry Face, that's when you can really start to appreciate what they do. It just becomes so good. It really does. It's worth going through all of the albums, but again, we're just going to talk about this. What we're going to do is I'm going to put my least favorite albums so basically we're going to put them in order from, from highest to lowest, what I thought of each and every album, and we're going to review them. We're going to talk about the albums and just go into kind of an in-depth discussion because I thought it might be interesting to talk about this stuff. And one thing I will add, that I probably won't be doing, I did watch the I Am Clancy video on the lore of 21 Pilots, which it's very interesting, but I'm not going to go super deep into the lore. I don't think I'm like a huge lore guy, but the lore I think is pretty interesting. It's cool that they've built a world in their music. I think that's a cool thing to do with music, because if you just put out music and there's nothing behind it, no story, it's just something you experience or it's something you wanted to talk about, it can become boring. And the fact that there isn't a world in there is kind of, yeah, I mean, the fact that they've built a world within their music I think is really cool. And I guess, I don't know if the story started with Vessel. It might have. It probably did, but apparently Clancy is where the whole story ends. So I'm not too into the lore, but because I'm super new to this. But yeah, let's go ahead and just get into organizing all the stuff, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. All right, so we are back. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start at the bottom for my least favorite 21 Pilots album, and then we're gonna kind of go all the way to the top. I'm gonna talk about each album and why I didn't like it, and I'll get your opinion on this from you guys, and you can tell me what you thought about the whole, all their albums. But this is my opinion. This is what I think. It's not the end all be all opinion. It's just, this is what I was thinking. Hey, this is, when I was listening to it, this was okay, But these are my takes. All right, these are my picks. So I put them in order. Let's go ahead, get into it. So, starting at the bottom is the self-titled album. I think this is I want to say worst album, but I feel like that's rude to say, but this is my least favorite album. It's, I don't know. To me, it's just nothing grabs me in this album, if that makes sense. I like when music grabs me. If nothing grabs me, there's nothing there for me to be I love this or this is great. then I can't really say I'd listen to it again. Also, another thing to add is songs are pretty long. They're pretty lengthy to get through, so this was a bit of a drag for their very first album, but I believe this is where, I don't know if this is before they had a story for their stuff, but to have a self-titled album off the bat is kind of crazy, you know? Because I feel like a self-titled album is when you discover yourself, but I don't know, maybe they just wanted to get out of the way, you know? But it's definitely my least favorite, because I can't say I have a favorite song on this album. Because I don't, this is the first one I listened to, and I don't remember any of the songs. So the album itself wasn't memorable at all. There was nothing that really grabbed me, nothing that hooked me into the album. I don't know. It just wasn't in a super in-depth album. I don't think they got huge until like their very third album, or maybe their second one, but anywho, let's move on to my what was it, second to last pick. So like, since we're starting at the bottom, we're still at the bottom. Next one's gonna be Vessel, so kind of going in almost spoiled that. So kind of going in order here, Vessel being the next album I listened to was, again, like, it in the same vein of not a lot hooked me. I think like the songs that I could pick out that like I know I liked was Car Radio, Semi-Automatic, and Trees. I think those are the only ones on this record that I liked. Funny enough, I do remember hearing I'm pretty sure someone, like, I think my friend's brother played this album in the car, like had the Vessel album and was playing it. But probably not as much as Blurry Face. We'll talk about that. But yeah, so Car Radio, Semi-Automatic, and Trees are the only ones in this album that really grabbed me. Everything else was kind of like, eh. So it kind of falls in the same vein as the self-titled album, but for me, this album, I should probably rate these albums too. But the difference with this album is, like, I did have songs that I did like in this album. There were definitely songs in here that were like, that stood out to me, you know, but not a lot. Let's just real quick rate the self-titled. I'm honestly going to give it a 5 out of 10, which is probably the lowest I could go. I'm not going to go any lower than that, 5 out of 10. Because, again, it's their first album. If they first started out writing this stuff, I thought it was an okay album. Just nothing really grabbed me. If I had to rate Vessel, it's definitely going to be a 6. It's going to be a 6 out of 10 because, again, same issue I have with the last album. If nothing grabs me, I can't really appreciate it. But then again, a lot of songs, or a few songs in here grabbed me, so I was just like, we'll bump it up a notch, you know? But it's an alright album. It's an alright album. Now, moving on to, I'm going to try and, I don't know, where does it start? It starts at Jumpsuit, right? Yeah. So, my next pick on this list, going after Vessel, literally, this isn't going in order now, because Trench is like I don't know how many records they have, but I know Trench is before Scaled and Icy. It's also before Clancy. With this album, I can definitely say a lot more stood out to me here. And dude, I want to, before we get into like what my standout songs were, I feel like we're just gonna keep I'm gonna keep upping the number by 1 every time, because I think I already know what I'd rate this album. The first song, and this is probably my most disappointing thing, is with Jumpsuit. The fact that Tyler, the vocalist, can scream took me for a loop, because the friend that told me to go and listen to 21 Pilots, all their albums, played this song for me. I'm like, he can scream. Because Jumpsuit, as far as I know, because I've listened to all the albums, Jumpsuit is the only one where he screams. Where is that tone? Because I need to hear more of that. It is wild that he does not scream anymore. Because this song right here, a huge highlight for me in this album. I didn't know he could scream, and I definitely need to hear more of him screaming. I think that's a must. If this dude doesn't do that, I'm gonna be a little upsetty spaghetti, dude, because it's literally the highlight of the album for me. Like, I think, like, there's only a couple of other songs that stand out to me that I can be like, oh, I like this song a lot. It's really good. Probably Levitate, The Hype. I think Bandito is another one too. But those are, again, kind of same thing with Vessel. Like, there's only a few songs that stand out to me, and that's gonna change. That's gonna change, trust me, because, like, again, I think these first 3 albums on the list just don't grab me a lot. Nothing really pulls me in, you know, and that's, I don't know if that's a me issue, but it kind of feels like it's a me issue. But if I had to rate the album, I definitely rate it a 7 out of 10. Literally, I think, like, it's 2 up from the self-titled just because Jumpsuit, dude. Jumpsuit, like, the Hype, Bandito, what's over, Levitate, like, those ones are really good. Like, but, like, Jumpsuit, dude, the screaming, if the screaming wasn't in Jumpsuit, I think it would have been an alright song, and it probably would have gone down a rating maybe, but yeah, dude, like, the fact that he can scream is wild. And I'm guessing he doesn't do it because it damages, I mean, screaming can damage your vocal cords. Like, heavy vocals can damage your vocal cords. That's why I don't do it. But yeah, it's a solid record, I do think. But again, it's kind of the same thing as Vessel, where, like, only a few songs grab me and it's not over the top for me. But let's keep going. Moving on to the top 3. The top 3. I believe there's only 3. Yeah, there's only 3 more records. The top 3. Number 3. Scaled and Icy. You probably see what's number 2. But I want to talk about this record because apparently this wasn't liked by fans. Or not received well by fans. Like, not a lot of people like it. And I will say, like, there isn't a lot of song. I think I'm probably gonna keep this at the same one as Trench, where it's a 7 for sure. I'm gonna keep this one at a 7 as well, and the reason being for that is because I don't know. I'm trying to think about the songs because I think the standout songs for me, I'm not even gonna pick favorites here, but my standout songs are Redecorate, Saturday, The Outside, Choker, and Good Day. You know what? I'll give this an 8. We're gonna give this an 8 out of 10 just because there is a lot more songs that, like, I think that's half the record. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And how many are on? Is this a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11? About half the album is really good. Like, stand out to me anyway, because I can tell you for a fact that these 5 songs right here, I cannot tell you how they sound, but I can. Good Day, I know how it sounds. Choker, The Outside, Saturday, and Redecorate, I can tell you how to sound. They're really good. But yeah, I don't know. I think this album goes above Trench for me just because of, like, there's more that I like on this album. It's just a solid record. I don't know. I like it a lot. I do like the title of the album too, Scaled and Icy, because if you didn't know I'm into medieval stuff, it's probably pretty obvious, but I'm a medieval guy, so the fact that, like, I think the cover art of Scaled and Icy is a dragon is pretty cool, and Choker's, like, I believe Choker's the title track of Scaled and Icy, because the music video has the dragon in it, so And if I, you know what, if I guess like for my favorites, I think I'm pretty sure Trees on Vessel is probably my favorite song on that record. If we had to pick a favorite, you know, if we had to, Trees is probably my favorite on Vessel. Jumpsuit, yeah, Jumpsuit's probably my favorite on Trench. And then for the favorite song on this, it's definitely gonna be Saturday. I don't know why Saturday is my favorite. I think it's just so good sounding, and I've heard it on the radio before. You know, I've definitely heard Saturday on the radio before. Like, maybe not the radio, but I've heard it in like stores. Like, it's definitely one of those store songs that are just playing in the background. And I didn't even know it was 21 Pilots because, goodness gracious, I've heard the hook. I've heard the chorus before, maybe while I was working or something like that, but I've definitely heard the song before. But yeah, definitely an 8 out of 10 for me personally, you know. But yeah. Now, moving on to the top 2, which you guys probably already know what they are. Yes, the top 2. So at number 2 is Blurryface, and probably wondering why. Well, I can tell you for a fact that every song on this album pretty much slaps. I think I'm trying to, like, let me explain why. There are so many, I think half the album I recognize. So my friend's brother I'm pretty sure played this album in the car, or I probably have heard the songs on the radio before. But yeah, this album is a banger. It's a banger. It's real good. It's real good. I'm pretty sure I've heard all these songs in that, like, it definitely played the album on repeat or something. Might have. I also remember the news was talking about 21 Pilots being at like for being sold out for like a concert or something that with Blurryface. At least I think this was like, it might have been for Trench, because when did Trench come out? No, it couldn't have been Trench. It was definitely Blurryface. 2015. Yeah, that sounds about, well, yeah, it sounds about right. Because basically, sorry, like, I saw on the news while I was at work that 21 Pilots just selling out tickets like crazy for a concert. And yeah, that was definitely around when everyone was listening to this album, which is crazy. Now, I think, like, the standout tracks for me is probably the first half of this album. It's probably these specifically, like Heavy Dirty Soul, Stressed Out, Ride, Fairly Local, Tear My Heart, Lame Boy, The Judge, Doubt, maybe not Doubt, but The Judge. These specifically, the standouts for me, and that's pretty much half the album. No, that is half the album, actually. That's half the album right there. I recognize half the album, and dude, straight bangers, all of them. I think my favorite one on this, out of all 7 of these, Tearing My Heart. Tearing My Heart is so good. So good. It's such a good track. I think, like, it's probably the best one on here. And if I had to rate this album, it's definitely, I think, 9 out of 10. Maybe an 8. I think it's a 9, though. There's so many songs on here that are so good, dude. And even the other half of the album, like, even though I don't recognize the songs as much, they're still really good. They're pretty good. They're pretty neat. Now, moving on to top number 1, which is Clancy. Clancy is my favorite album. And, dude, I can tell you for a fact that none of these songs miss. None of them. This is, like, the perfect album. This is probably the best album they've done, I'd say. Like, I don't skip anything on this album. I know all the songs. just, I really don't think that they miss on this album at all. Like, Clancy is my favorite, and if it becomes my album of the year, I'll include it in that video when we do it. But there is one issue I have with this album, and I'm wondering if you guys could guess. I'll give you a second. Give you a second to guess what I don't like about this album, because it's a very specific thing. If you've guessed it, have you guessed it? If you guess it, comment below. But the one thing I don't like about this album is the end of the album, which is the only song that I don't particularly like because one reason. So Paladin Straight is it's a good song. Like, I know like the first, like, I think the chorus I think is I would swim the Paladin Strait without any flotation. I think that's how it goes, but the one thing I don't like about the Paladin Strait song itself is the I believe the music video is like 4 minutes or something like that. The problem with the Spotify version, and also I'm sure it's the same way on the CD, is the length. 6 minutes and 29 seconds, right? Now, I don't mind long songs, because what's funny is, like, most of this album is short. 3 minutes. 3 minutes or under. Mostly 3 minutes. This song is 6 minutes and 29 seconds, and the problem I have with it is there is, like, it plays the song, and then there's, like, a 2-minute interlude of silence, and then it plays an outro part. That's the only thing I hate about the song. And it doesn't ruin the album for me at all. Like, the album itself is just so good. Like, I could look past this, but I really can't. I don't like that there's just, like, silence for 2 minutes, because then I just skip back to the start of the album. That is my only issue with the song. I will not listen to that 2 minutes of, if they change that on Spotify and, like, maybe, but it's too late now because they already have that on the album, on the CD. So yeah, I do feel like that's a mistake on their part. Like, they probably shouldn't have kept that in that song. Maybe there's a reason they did it. I don't like it. I just don't. But if I, like, the funny thing is, I haven't even picked standouts in the song, because every song on here stands out. Even Paladin Straight stands out. And, like, dude, I don't know if I could pick a favorite. Like, maybe Routines in the Night and At the Risk of Feeling Dumb. Those are probably my two favorites. I would say if I had to pick two, just even Overcompensate is pretty good too. So maybe those are my top three. But if I had to give this album a rating, it's going to be a 9 out of 10. I'm not going to give it a perfect rating because of this song being the way it is. If they had changed it, if they had taken out that audio that has silence in it, like no audio at all, I would have been happy with the album. It would have been a perfect 10 out of 10 album for me. But yeah. So that's my I also made a playlist called Falsify for the album. I am probably going to get rid of this playlist though, because, like, I already have 21 Pilots in another playlist. So, but yeah, those are my picks. Let me know what you guys thought about my picks, if they were solid, good, bad. I don't know. It's my opinion. Like, that's the order I went in for, like, what my favorite albums were, and what they only have 6 albums. Interesting. Anyway, that's going to be the video for today, but thank you guys for watching. If you did, as always, I appreciate it a ton, and I will see you guys in the next video, and yeah, goodbye.